to pump myself up before I do stuff. And smoke, usually. But I'll try not to. No, you know what? I'm going to smoke and then she can't bang. I'm going to smoke and read the Bible to prove a point. What I'm trying to do in this documentary, too, is give a case for why marijuana should be legal and why it is medicine for people. Like, when I smoke with people, they'll be like, I'm high, and they can't talk. Like, they're stoned, they can't, remember what they're doing, and they're hungry, and I'm like, none of that happens to me. I am a normal person, and I can still remember the first time I smoked. I was in a car with a bunch of my girlfriends from high school, riding around in the country, and one of them's Mustang, and this night, I'll never forget it, and that calming feeling, like, they say you don't feel anything the first time you do it, and I feel like I did, because I remembered the calm, and I don't know that I ever achieve a real necessary calm, even when I try to sleep, like, I'm up, like, I don't need, like, when I used to do uppers and stuff, that's why I went bananas. I went crazy, because I don't need it. I need downers. I had to later find that I needed something to kind of bring myself to a simmer. And it's not, been easy. So my point is, people do need it for medication. It is a plant. I know that they, put chemicals on it to grow, but you don't have to do that. And I can sometimes get the medical grade stuff that's really potent and really effective. It helps me really calm. Like, this stuff doesn't really do much to me except for help me rise above the thoughts that want to convince me to give up and to that remind me, like, a montage of, like, all the burnings people have done to me and what has resulted in, and it makes me want to, make these videos and call all those people out. But instead, I'm like, instead of doing that, I'm going to use it for a more productive purpose, because it's always a he said, she said world we live in, and I don't care to waste time on that. Like, however I got here, even if they were all exactly right, I'm still forgiven, like it or not. Like it or not, because I choose to allow myself to change. I'm, if I felt like I was supposed to be paying consequences, I wouldn't be so pissed off. I would just take my consequences, like I did when I got my DUI and went into jail for 30 days instead of taking probation, because I have been a pot smoker for a long time. It's my medicine. I don't drink. I don't do any other pills or shit like that anymore. I just need this. And, oh, poo. I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was saying. Sorry. Happens to everyone. It's not just because I'm a stoner. But the basis of why I'm saying this before I continue on to Romans is because I want to break those idols in your mind. I want to break down all the things you think in a way. And, like, people will be like, you're breaking down the original gospel. You are killing people's faith if you do that. Damn you for eternity. And fine, damn me to eternity. I will have to stand before God and be judged for all the things that I say and all the things that I've done. And I am completely at peace with that. So, since you're not God, and since he says that revenge is for his to avenge, can you please just let me the right to say what I have on my mind, just like anyone else? And if you don't agree with it, then ignoring me thing, that's fine. But, saying things behind my back and trying to, muddy someone else's testimony, why would you do that? I don't care enough about your testimony to do something like that, no matter how much I disagreed. So you got to ask yourself why you're going to such efforts to do that. And I would encourage anyone who hears anything about me that doesn't make any sense when you're looking right at me right now and hearing what I say, And a person is their testimony. You know, what I say is the testimony. The things that come out of my mouth from my heart, that's my testimony. And I know you can't see me all times of the day, and you don't know what I'm doing when I'm not doing a video. And you have to, at some point, you have to trust. But those people don't know anything more about me than that anyways. They're not around me either. And if anyone who was close to me, the few that are, then I would know exactly who those people were. Because I already know. I just can't necessarily always do everything about it. Because if you're paranoid or you're accusatory, then it can be dangerous without proof. Face it, no matter where you go, what you do, there's always someone that you don't like or get along with. And that's why having to go to buildings to do work all together, I mean, it's like with technology, we all have home offices. It's like, why do we even need to go into an environment like this every day and have to get along and agree with every person and tolerate it all and keep up with however they want me to dress every day and spend money on those kind of clothes? And then I got to have my workout clothes. And then I like to be chill. Like if I'm not at work, I'm chilling. And, you know, so I allow the brainstorming is to explore those crazy thoughts and what if all day long, like what if, and then just keep that going until it's out. I mean, I've drawn out so many ideas, like right here. These are sketch pads. Oh boy. These are sketch pads. This is how I draw out my software application. Each one of these is a different screen. And then I have another product idea one here. So I get sketch pads, and then I have a yellow pad, and then this book is my idea book. All my ideas pretty much start out in this book from Raw. So have an idea file, have a creative way to get those things out of your head, and keep yourself safe. Like, don't do that around people who don't understand you or who can't play along and don't have idea, aren't, like, you know that saying, like, small minds talk about people or whatever, something else, and then great minds talk about ideas, whatever that thing is. The point is, great minds talk about ideas. So if you don't have anyone who can do that with you, don't do that around them, because they're going to make you feel stupid. They're going to shoot you down from the minute you get going. I mean, you won't get anywhere. So do that alone if you have to, and it can't all happen just up here. I mean, I don't think I have to draw things out, like, you know, there were idea maps and bubbles and things like that. However you do it, like, this is a book scribbled in. Like, I scribbled everywhere. Like, nothing, there's a bunch of gaps because I know where different things are, and I want someone who picks this up to see, like, oh, this is nothing, because this is really where all my ideas were. And now I have them all backed up different ways. The poor man's way, but still enough poor man's ways to be hopefully equal one rich person's way to block me if I ever needed to sue someone for snipering my ideas. Because I've had to pitch them to a lot of people that ultimately turn me down and, oh, have me go work for this intern at this startup. One of my startup companies is interning. Go what? I mean, I get those, but it's like, I already did all that. I've interned. I went to school. I've had 29 jobs. Like, I don't need to do that no more. Okay. So don't hoe me out to your startup company and then turn down investing in my company. Those stones in my life were what taught me to not do those things anymore. You know, like, there are times you learn the hard way about something and yep, don't do that. So I call those stones because one of my mentors when I was younger used to do, whenever he had pivotal moments or epiphanies, he would write it on a stone where he had a clear realization. He called them God aha moments, so that anytime he got to a point where he was doubtful or going through something he didn't understand or whatever, he would have those, stones to remind him that, you'll get through it, you'll find a solution, and it'll be okay. So that's kind of what I've done as well, because I think that was a great idea. I can't stay on, I'm ADD, I cannot stay on task. What I need to go do is grab something to put my medicine in, and I shall return. And I'm chilly. Alrighty. "6 feet down in the grave I fell. I can't even help myself." Sorry, I don't like editing because my iMovie app unexpectedly closes, and just it's one little things make me snap like that. Like the big things, I'm like chill, and the little things repetitively happening that just annoy me like that make me break things. So I have to avoid the things, and then on top of that, there are things I don't know how to do, don't care to learn about them, and not my expertise. So as such, I apologize that you have to kind of ride with me through like if you are giving me your time, I recognize nobody has time for anything. So if you are watching these videos, the ones of you who say things, obviously you watch some of them. So I'm not trying to disrespect your time here. I realize it's very valuable, but I feel like I'm trying to get to a point that could ultimately help you see things in a freeing way, even if you're not free right now. It'll make you feel better to at least know someone's fighting and trying to do something about it, even if you can't. And you may be able to live more peacefully, looking at things a little bit different of a way, and you won't, beat yourself up so much over things that you can't change or sin, whatever. That's why my MC name's Cinderella, because it's with an S. It's not because I'm a sinner, like it would come across that way, but it was because I once was a sinner, and I am free of that sin. Okie doke. So, Paul is introducing his message to the Romans. Chapter 1. Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle and set apart for the gospel of God, the gospel he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures regarding his Son, who as to his human nature was a descendant of David, and who through the Spirit of holiness was declared with power to be the Son of God by the resurrection from the dead, Jesus Christ our Lord. Through him and for his name's sake, we received grace and apostleship to call people from among all the Gentiles to obedience that comes from faith. And you also are among those who are called to belong to Jesus Christ. To all in Rome who are loved by God and called to be saints, grace and peace be to you from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's like the nice, intro we do. Like, hi, how are you? How are the kids? Blah, 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 blah. Everybody's well. It's all this, we're good to God. That's the greeting. You got to picture and set yourself in a setting where this dude's got a little bit different message to give about the gospel. That's new at this time. They didn't have a Bible and letters. They had pretty much one way that the disciples that were around Jesus, passed it on, and it was in a certain way, and it was all about the law. It was all about upholding the law, and that's how you earned your, salvation. Because it used to be about sacrifice, but even when Jesus came, it wasn't so much about love and freedom and oneness anymore. Even just after his death and the way they carried it out, they focus far less on that message right there. So that gives me cause for concern, because those people are just human beings, flawed men as well. So whenever I'm in doubt, I just focus way more on the red letters, and there are a lot of the red letter things Jesus said that I haven't mastered yet, that I can't wrap myself around yet, because I'm still my fleshly human self at the same time. And I hope and pray that at some point in my life I do get there, because I want to please, be as perfectly pleasing as I can be. But because I'm not, doesn't mean that I'm not currently accepted as I am and seen as righteous because he looks at us all through the eyes of Jesus Christ, who died for those sins. First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you, because your faith is being reported all over the world. God, whom I serve with my whole heart in preaching the gospel of his Son, is my witness how constantly I remember you in my prayers at all times. And I pray that now, at last, my God's will, the way may be opened for me to come to you. So he's right. A lot of times when he wrote, he was saying, God willing that I can come to you, be with you. And he, because there wasn't like, we don't hop on a plane and fly over to, wherever you have to get there, walk, carriage, journey, whatever, that's why they were like, when they said, don't take the beaten path, take the unbeaten path, because they were literally like paths, they took their roads. So already you have to put yourself in that mind frame, like a dude who was against the church, against Christ, and against all this, has found a message in his own salvation when God revealed himself to Saul on his road to Damascus when he was traveling, when he was having to make a journey, where, he called him Paul. You know how some celebrities have one name and then they become another name when they're famous or whatever? That's kind of what that would be like. He became Paul, because he felt like he died to his old self and he was this new person. Like it says, you're reborn. It's because you have this spirit then, or you recognize that it's there. Maybe you always had it, or you're, the churches, they baptize it, and there's significance in the Bible. John actually baptized Jesus, so baptism was symbolic and necessary, to symbolize like you're passing from your old life to your new life. So this man with this message, he's trying to travel around, and in different churches, they're practicing something completely different. So his message is going to come, because his message is to the sinners, to the Gentiles. It's through faith. It's not through earning anything through works, and because they're not of the blood and already, considered Jewish and saved and God's child. So they have to be there. In a part in Romans, it's talk about grafting in branches, and when I get there, I will definitely explain it, because it's hard to understand. But everyone is going to be shown grace, whether you were of the blood or whether you are not. Everyone has to be shown grace at some point in their life. So even if everything's going so perfectly in your life right now, or has been, there will be a moment where it won't, because God says He will have to demonstrate grace on forever. Everyone will need grace. So Andy builds up and tears down. I mean, Job, he took everything away from him and then restored it all 10 times over, because he had to prove that. Because see, anyway, that's definitely a story I'm gonna cover. So, sorry, Romans 1 chapter 8, or verse 8, or verse 11. I long to see you, so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. That is, that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that I planned many times to come to you, in order that I may have a harvest among you, just as I have had among the other Gentiles. By harvest, he means people who come to believe, people who hear him, understand him, and now have been basically introduced to God, because all it is supposed to be is an introduction. Like when a friend of mine introduced me to someone who does music to help me out like that, he came to me and was like, hey, I see you obviously like music. I had done lyrics and part of the end of a film for a friend for his for a film festival. It played during the credits, and his contact came up to me and said, I have a contact I'd like to introduce you to. He made that connection, and then it went from there between that connection and myself without that person. So that's all it's supposed to be. Is like, here's how I see God, and this is our relationship. I don't know if you're going to have the same type, but I do know He would like to know you because He created you, and it's really cool, even when shit goes down and is bad, it's much better, inside. So when the externals go down, like, you're solid inside and you can handle it. And the measure of your test is according to your faith. So if you allow yourself to be stretched, there's always gonna be another level. That's what's magical about it, because you never, even when you're a master, I imagine you never outgrow new experience. Because now my at the beginning it would have scared me and been weirded out by a lot of the things that now go on in my relationship, because everything is ironic. That's why you'll hear me say that word a zillion times. I'm getting too personal. I apologize. So I'm saying that he's harvesting believers is what he means by harvest. That he hopes that when he comes and preaches his message, that others might, enjoy the freedom and understand why it's such a good news, a joyous thing we're supposed to celebrate, because no longer are we captured by sin. I am obligated both to Greeks and to non-Greeks, both to the wise and the foolish. That is why I am so eager to preach the gospel also to you who are at Rome. I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. For in the gospel a righteousness from God is revealed, a righteousness that is faith from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. Okay, what does living by faith mean? Let's see what the study Bible says. I don't really jump down there anymore, but for all intents and purposes, 117, the study Bible says, the gospel shows us both how righteous God is in his plan for us to be saved, and also how we may be made fit for eternal life. By trusting Christ, our relationship with God is made right. From first to last, God declares us to be righteous because of faith and faith alone. Okay, I was hoping they would go elaborate a little bit more on faith, because it can, when I hear the word faith in the worldly sense, I think of it as just this blind faith where we trust something we don't fully understand, and for the things we don't understand, we're just supposed to trust God. And I would be able to do that if it made sense in the world and the evidence of its application seemed good to me. I would absolutely be able to do that, but because it doesn't, is why I question that word altogether. So I feel like the faith is just that you have it in yourself. Like when I am backed in a corner, you're always in control. There's always a window. You're never really a hostage to what you think you are. But even though I understand it, because it's hard to trust yourself, because we've been serving this false ceiling for so long, and in doing so, it's conditioned only way of thinking to think that we have no other choice. That's just how it is. You do what you have to do. All these words. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth of their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his external power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. So he's saying, I've made everything pretty obvious, and the fact that you're still polluted by being able to see it is without excuse. And that was all many, many years ago. So the devil has had a lot more time to disguise things, distract us, give us unreasonable demands, not enough time or money to buy the things we need, so we're stressed and worried. So our mind is constantly toiling because of those things. So we cannot really comprehend unless we, for me, I had to, remove myself from all that stuff. My hair's atrocious. I had to, don't dye your own hair, kids. I mean, it's something I can barely handle. But anyway, see, distracted right there. But anyways, see, that is a perfect example, because that voice that hates on yourself so much, I mean, you could pick on, and everything picks on themselves. You pick on yourself more than you think, I bet. Because I do. I catch myself picking on myself, and I'm like, shut up, it's stupid, meaningless shit. And that voice that comes in and then takes you down that thought path, and then you feel bad about yourself. Then you don't want to work out. Then you don't want to do anything. Don't follow that thought path. That's a do not enter roadblock. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like the mortal man and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another. Okay. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator who is forever praised. Amen. Okay, so I want to elaborate that from a personal perspective because I don't want to be accusatory and call other people out. So I'll use myself as an example, put myself up on the cross as usual. The sexual impurity thing, I was brought up being pretty scared of sex because when you're brought up in church and in a really conservative place, and the way I lost my virginity isn't a good one, you come to the Bible later, and when you read that, it's like, shudders, because you think about, like, it's like a montage of all those memories, like, flood your mind at once, and then it made me think about how I dishonored my temple for, and it's not to say I was a hoe, and I hate that is where a mind goes with a female whenever they talk about sexual promiscuity at all. Then suddenly I'm a whore. Okay, so, alrighty, I'm Mary Magdalene, whatever. Impurity of your body can be mean so many things and put so many ways, but I thought I got so desperate once upon a time when I didn't have any money and I left a job. My emotion gets the better of me. I'll tolerate something for a long time, like a year. I think my best is a year and a half on my resume. If I don't like a place, I can make it about a year and a half. And then I explode and go out Jerry Maguire style, nothing short of. And then all of a sudden I calm down and I'm like, shit, I know I can't pay my bills. And I've been able to move out of that enough ways and by grabbing another job quick enough. But you burn bridges a lot when you're like me because you say something. When you're in a submissive, subordinate position always, which I always have because I've always kind of been pursuing since the time I left my corporate job when I was in California when I was barely 25, I have never gone back into a permanent corporate. It's always been some sort of like almost contract freelance because I've always been trying to build like freelance all my stuff, just fill my time by using the abilities that I have, developed for myself in all these different ways and taught myself to help, other people who need those who can't necessarily afford to hire people from businesses to do that. And so now I've tried to turn that into a software. And to help other people to do the same thing. So I couldn't make money at this time, and someone told me about a webcam modeling situation. I'm sorry, I have everybody on my friends list is over 18 at least, and you're all adults. We're all adults here. So, maybe not on YouTube, but anyway, I hesitate to say that because I don't want to promote sex or any of that, whatever, even though I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I'm trying to come from an unbiased perspective and not put my own opinions into it and be mindful of what you put out there. But like I said, every kid can learn from good and bad. You can learn, don't go that road because that's where it leads. That's a lot of why I'm opening up the bad parts of me is because I'm saying I can now see the first decision that led to all these other things. And if I had known then what was behind that door, I never went into it. So if I can point out by my own mistakes and how I'm still trapped to those, even though I've paid for the consequences, I'm still a hostage to those same mistakes. Maybe I can teach them through my bad shit to not go through that door. So for that purpose, I'm willing to say that I webcam modeled for a short stint to bail my ass out because no one is there to hand me a check to bail me out whenever I feel like I stand up for something that isn't right in a workplace or to a man, whatever. It comes to a point where you have boundaries and you have drawn lines not in the sand but in stone. And you, whenever they cross them or give you ultimatums, and your livelihood depends on it. That's why I mean, like, no one should ever have you by the balls. You should be able to leave anything at any time you want to, if it's not right. And that's the purpose of the business that I'm trying to build. One of them, because we should all be able to just barter and say how much I'm worth and how much my time is worth, and build up worth and build up portfolio and be rated by people, by a system, to tell them that you did a good job, and that this is a person who is worth the amount of money they're charging, and you can trust them. Background checks, all this stuff I've put a lot of time and effort into building, because I did the footwork and market research and got knocked out, not on my own doing, when I was in Florida. So I'm a year still buried and it's not right. So yeah, of course I'm a little angry about that, because what did I do wrong? But try to follow the formula, go to school, put everything into place and do it, and it didn't output. Like, it should be 2 + 2 = 4 every time, and it's not like that for everyone. It depends on all these other things. They wouldn't ask you such ridiculous questions when I'm filling out 900 different times, repeating the same fucking information over and over and over. So if I had my own portfolio where someone could come and see everything I've done right there and hire me from that, and go through me to me directly, and it's not so many people in between the situation and so many of these irrelevant factors that come into play. So the people's ability, obviously my smoking weed does not inhibit my ability to speak or do a job. I'm demonstrating that right now for a reason. I'm not trying to put smoking weed in your face, promote smoking weed. I'm trying to make something that's legal when there are countless other drugs, for countless other things that are legal, when I've tried the things they prescribed me to alleviate the very same problem, that I opted to choose weed instead, that does the very same thing, because it's something that I found for myself. So yeah, I'm self-medicating, but doctors, I saw by example, by evaluating them, don't ask enough questions or get involved enough to know me well enough to know exactly what is wrong all the time. I feel like half the time we go in and tell them what's wrong with us. Can I have this pill? I saw the advertisement. I have those symptoms. Sure. That's another one of my videos. It's like you, and all these things, we get sued out the asshole. So it's like, I got to be very careful what I show, but I go in and you can hear the conversation. You never see where I'm at. Unfortunately, I would love to fucking put people on blast all day long, but you can't do that. Unfortunately, no wonder. Yeah, just ironic. Can't do that. So I get around that. They want to find loopholes and drive semi-trucks through them, then I'm going to find some loopholes and do the same thing. And for no other purpose, not to gain money, than to just try to fight for human rights here. That's all I'm doing. And not with weapons. Just words. Using your sword. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Okay. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed indecent acts with other men and received in themselves the due penalty for their perversion. Okay. I'm going to dare. Bear with me. All these things we kind of just skip over in the Bible. I'm going to go there because I think I have a theory that I would like to present. What I think when I read these things, because I ask God, I read things like this and I'm like, really, God? I mean, seriously, you are hating on your own creation for being subject to products of their own environment. And if you want to switch up the model and make some people like their same gender, then I think you could probably do that if that's what, like, it's a chemistry experiment, right? Like, okay, I designed it this way a long time ago and things went a different way. So we had Jesus come and die, and then men were doing this already. So you saw us go in a different direction. Did you really know everything from the beginning to end? Or is it an experiment and your experience through us? Like, isn't that why you created us? You said, let us create them in our image. Who were you talking to? Were there many? There are so many questions. This is how I pray. I ask them all. I rifle up questions. because I read this and I'm like, who the hell is he talking to? He said, let us create them in our image. Who is he talking to? So I don't want to get off track and go there yet, but I will. And so I was asking him, how, why couldn't he why are we stuck right here, at this time? Is this the only way we can know Jesus? And there's no other word of God. This is the only one that other people who are living testimony and have had this experience with the Creator and with Jesus, or whatever their journal entries are, that's not also somehow the Word of God. How do we know? How do we know that this wasn't just Paul's, recognition of what, people have been led astray by this sin that has obviously been present from the beginning of time and that has been passed down throughout generations that we bear the burdens of today. And if that's what you want to claim created this, then they're still God's children. You can't ever get around it. So, when he said, God says, he loves us and sees us as righteous through Jesus, I still don't think it's sin. I think God just switched up his experiment in my own belief system. But even if you're going to put it on them and make it their, fault and their sin, they're still loved by God and they're still who they are, So that's what I think about that part. And I could be to hell for it, and I'm willing to take that risk. Furthermore, and now I'm reading again in the Bible in case I don't know if you can differentiate between the sun just came out. Yeah, I made that happen, didn't I? The sun, after I said that, just came out. That's what I was talking about, signs and looking for. If it doesn't seem like something, it isn't. If it does, it does. I just let you in on my wacky, how I see God. I'm going to get there because it gets crazy detailed, but you all would stop listening to me and think I was a whack job if I really exposed all that now. So, furthermore, since they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, he gave them over to a depraved mind to do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They are senseless, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. Okay, so we all know that these things exist. Everything I just said right there exists in the world today, like it or not, and it's hard to swallow what Paul is implying. We always have to keep in mind in the forefront that this is a man named Paul writing this. All those things that exist are as a result of what a conditioning caused. There's cause and reaction. Cause and reaction. So something happens to these. I've collected, believe you me, I have spent time, lots of time with all sorts of people, listening to them that I don't necessarily talk to ever again. I'm one of those people that strikes up a conversation or gets into a situation and, they'll want to keep the connection, but it's just like that moment is all it was to me when they happen, and because I'm not going out looking for them, they just occur. And it's just that I recognize what they are and what they're meant for, because when you just connect with someone like you've known them forever in a moment and you share something and it's like they know you better than anyone in your life has ever known you, or you felt like you've known them forever, it doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to be in each other's lives for the rest of your life. It's just you cross paths on a train or bus, whatever. If you're not active in the world and open to people, then you'll never have those experiences. But because I get them all the time. And it allowed me to, hear all kinds of different stories of all kinds of different people from where they come from, and it's always relevant. You can't just label someone or judge a book by its cover. There are a lot of great books with shitty covers and a lot of shitty books with great covers that are meant to make you buy it, and then you buy it, and I don't read books. I don't finish books all the time. I buy them or I get them from the library, and I'm done. I'm over it. So, the real stories of the people, when I go talk to them, I'm like, fuck books. I like going and talking to people. They have some crazy ass stories depending on where you go. And it's not crazy as in bad. It's just like people live and they have these amazing stories that enlighten you, and or make you want to have those same experiences or make you avoid those experiences. And you can learn by experience or by observation. How long am I going today? I just got my teaching license because I was hoping to substitute teach, but now that I blast out on my Facebook that I need weed for my medication, that might be inhibited, but I have a backup plan. That's why I have another interview tomorrow, because I am constantly, something happened at the job I just had at a restaurant and don't want to talk about. And a restaurant before that, like things because of what I'm going through in my mind, and because of what I just went through, I'm finding it really, 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 extremely, hugely big test on my patience and on my ability to keep myself cool. And because I get provoked, and there are more people that seem to want to fuck with me than not, and they can just, little jabs every day. I know there are people, because I talk to you, and when we're talking about how people, it's the small things that make us crazy. It's the small jabs, the little like, where did this go? Where did or like Office Space, my stapler, and then get moved. That kind of shit, where if you won't quit, then they'll push you out. They'll make you quit. And it's crazy. It's like a fuck. I'm sorry I get into that, but I have to express the fucking level of bananas it is. It feels like you've been dropped down out of a helicopter into a fucking war zone without any goddamn cover or people in your pod to protect you. It's craziness. It's craziness, because you say what you believe. I do. Anyways. I think you can probably see why people don't fucking like me. I don't curse. It's not like the cussing factor, because I can put a lid on it. I just don't when I have freedom of speech, and on the last free thing I can really come across in the world that hasn't been tainted in some way or set up with a set of things I don't want to keep up with. Chapter 2. I know I'm not only shooting myself in my foot, but I am murdering it because I know I closed my Facebook to make me stop from having a place to go say what I have on my mind. And when I opened it back up, I was going to really try and keep to that. And then, people take cheap shots when you're down, and because they kick you. There's a million reasons why. Because work, people will just send me fucking random emails telling me I should go to work. Why aren't I working? And all this stuff. Shut up. I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's just stupid hate. And I'm like, you don't know what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to do that, and I have not been able to, and I could present some theories on why, but that's to get caught up in my own story too much, and you don't care about that. I know people don't really give a shit. So let me talk about something that people do give a shit about, or at least they claim to. Romans chapter 2. You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else. For at whatever point you judge the other, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things. So what he just spelled out that was meant to scare everyone, who it does all the things that I just spelled out, he turns right around and he's like, and you do the same fucking shit. You just don't get punished for it. You just don't get caught. That's the difference. You wrote the law. You got the people to protect you. Gave them that dividend split. And you get by with everything. It's your system. Now we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based on truth. So when you, a mere man, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think you will escape God's judgment? Or do you show contempt for the riches of his kindness, tolerance, and patience, not realizing that God's kindness leads you toward repentance? But because of your stubbornness and your unrepentant heart, you are storing up wrath against yourself for the day of God's wrath, when his righteous judgment will be revealed. God will give to each person according to what he has done. You don't learn the result of a test till it's over. You feel like, when you feel like you get, like, because you know when you do something wrong, you have that, like, I call it an alarm system. Like, you know, like, my heart beats fast. I know what I'm doing right. Like, when I was doing the webcam modeling, I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing that. I knew it was, like, wrong way. But I was, like, so mad at God at that point because I was, like, fuck you for backing me in a fucking corner where these are my fucking options to get the fuck out. I'm so fucking sick. I mean, every other word was a cuss word to him. I'm giving it to you real. This was my prayer. And I was like, you've done this to me over and over, and I have escaped going and being a stripper, a prostitute, or letting one man I don't want to be with anymore hold me hostage because make me be with him somehow because he fucking fooled me with the upfront, oh, and so nice, and makes the trips to see, you know how everything is in the fucking beginning, and and then 6 months I didn't even sleep with this man, and then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot, and then you get there, you move, and away and give up your fucking independence, my whole shit was by myself, and then you trust somebody away, states away, and then I'm able to leave. I figure out a fucking plan to leave because he would leave because of his job and leave me fucking there, and the way he would treat me while I was there, and like I couldn't fucking do anything because he knew I was poor and couldn't fucking afford anything. I had no real support behind me because I've burned a lot of bridges because I'm willing to stand up for myself and say, I don't believe that, or no, I don't trust you, or no, I don't like this. No, I'm unwilling to do that. And people hate you, and the minute they don't get what they want out of you, when you were, even if you were up front, put all your cards on the table, said what you were looking for, and they said, yeah, yep, we can agree to all that, and then they said, and then it gets that way to a point where you can't leave anymore, and then they fucking turn the mask on you, and they're not that way anymore, and then turn you into the ugliest version of yourself because you're fucking constantly you don't like it, and you have to tolerate because you have no other choice, nowhere else to go. That's one of my business ideas. My product ideas is meant to go just for a fucking housing, building shit for people to be able to leave wherever they're at and reboot and have real fucking support around them where people are hearing their stories and counseling them, getting them the things that they need to get back on their feet without having to fucking scramble to one person or another, temporary room. That's how I've moved 23 times because I had to go rent a room, sleep on a couch, sleep in my car, shower at the gym, do all this different fucking bullshit to scramble because I was not willing to tolerate it. I wasn't willing to let someone continue to cheat on me, lie to my fucking face, treat me like a fucking dirt, like I'm trash. No, not this bitch. Wrong fucking bitch. Here. See, that's what I'm talking about. That voice, that fucking flesh, that's me. That's Nikki. That's Nikki who is sick. And then there's this spirit that says, calm down. He who is in the world cannot destroy you, has nothing on you, can't hurt you. If you have to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that, do it. I don't know where I was now. It's my commentary. I think I turned the page in. Okay, yeah, I said pass judgment and do the same things. Now we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based on truth. So when you, a mere man, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think that you will escape God's judgment, or do you show contempt for the riches of the kindness, tolerant, or do you show contempt for the riches of his kindness, tolerance, and patience, not realizing that God's kindness leads you to repentance, which it is. When you realize, when you're aware, what he's saying here is become aware of his tolerance. God is so tolerant. He puts Jesus here because he was all human, yet all God, meaning he knew all God, yet he was still all human. So he could feel everything we felt, to be on our behalf, attest to his Father that you created, but you don't know what it is to be human. Isn't that something to think about? God doesn't know what it's like to be human. Everybody say God's all-knowing, ever-knowing. But the thing is, he says in the beginning that I created them in my likeness so that he could enjoy himself. I've been alone for a long time now, away from most people, and I only really see one person consistently because I rely on that person I don't have a car right now. I can't, eat without seeing this person because he takes care of me at the moment. That it has allowed me to see, with the absence of others, I don't exist. I like to enjoy myself through the chemistry I have with other people, and that's why I enjoy multiple relationships rather than just a few of the same people, because I'm a different person around different people. Like, it brings out different sides of me, and I really enjoy and am fascinated by all types of people. I've always been very curious about all different types of people because I grew up in such a place where everyone was exactly the same. So when I was more cultured a little when I went to college, because I went to a bigger city, so I was exposed to more different types of people, or different types of people that I could become interested in and really learn from and have relationships with. And it made me into a different person because they become like the tattoos on your soul. They're part of you. And, books are that as well. Like, if you look in the book, like, I've read books that I don't have, but the ones that I own, that I bought, took the time to buy, ones I reread or reference, those are tattoos. That's part of my chemistry, my makeup, my personality, my ingredients of who I am. And so you have to be careful who you expose yourself to. So when I go into environments where I don't necessarily want to be infected by that environment, but yet I want to learn from it, you can be strong enough to not let it, to be Teflon, to let it slide off. So I've allowed myself to go into all types, unjudging, and just listen. And in doing so, I learned so much more than I could ever learn just by books, because experience coupled with reading books gives a well-rounded point of view. And that's what I'm trying to give, as a well-rounded view. Because all religion, I'm starting with Christianity because it was the first one exposed to me. And Jesus, what he did, I believe, is like a very significant, pivotal, obviously paid for my life because I'm such a sinner. I appreciate that more so than the person who's perfect or closer to perfect, because he, it's not in vain. He paid a high price for me. I would have tacked up a larger sin bill if you make it in accordance with the religious law, not the law. And I haven't broken the law, like, other than a DUI than in smoking weed, but I meant the spiritual law, or the biblical law, their law that they are talking about in the Bible. Then I would have a high bill because of that one, because it's so ridiculous and the standards are so, and it just makes us into very robotic, almost boring type, some people, because we're so fearful to be ourselves, and we just mirror each other, that it's the same. It's never gonna, that's what I fear for it anyways. He goes on to say, but because of your stubbornness and your unrepentant heart, you are storing up wrath against... Oh, wait, I already read that. To those who by persistence in doing good seek glory, honor, and immortality, he will give eternal life. But for those who are self-seeking and who reject the truth and follow evil, there will be wrath and anger. There will be trouble and distress for every human being who does evil, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile, but glory and honor and peace for everyone who does good, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile, for God does not show favoritism. All who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law, and all who sin under the law will be judged by the law. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteous. In parentheses, Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law, since they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts now accusing. Wait. Oh, and their thoughts now accusing, now even defending them. So what I get out of what he just said, because sin, okay, the first line, sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law. Okay, so okay, I'm trying to, it's true on the, it's hard. And so I have to let God talk to me for a sec. The people are gonna think if someone's telling me to say this. Okay, for the reason the doubt from my other mind just came in. I have ear problems, so I mess with my ears a lot because I can't go to the doctor, but I have nothing in my ears. I'm only doing this because people say all kinds of crazy, stupid ass shit. I don't know if you can see anything or if it's gross, if you can even see to what I'm talking about. I usually have to go deeper. That's why I always have this paper clip right here, or this bobby pin like this, because I have to go in there and like, I have something in my ear. I can't go to the doctor. I shit you not. I know it's Obamacare is going through, but it's more obstacles than that. I could go to the emergency room, make it, and do all that. I know, but I've already done that for different things that I can't keep racking up bills that I can't pay for. So I deal with it because it's something I can at least fucking deal with. What I was saying before I got distracted by my thought that was like, people probably think someone's telling you say all this shit. All sin apart from sin. Okay. So these people didn't have the law. These Gentiles, they weren't under the law. They didn't have the law, but they abided the law because they had their conscience that kept them accountable to themselves, you know, because, you know, like I know when something feels right and I know when something feels wrong. I don't need anything telling me what is right and wrong. I know not to go murder someone. I know not to beat someone. I know not to take someone else's spouse. I know not to covet things I can't have. I mean, I know not to disrespect my parents. I feel like as best as I can possibly do it, that's what I try to stick to, and we all fault things. So that's the point he's trying to make, is that sin apart from the law will perish. If we don't have the law, then it doesn't matter. The sin perishes. That's not what our people is about. It's about the promise, which is what I'm going to get to later, is about how he's setting it up, like, you know, agreeing with them that it's not a setup. He's saying this is what, you know, you're doing these things, and I've witnessed it in all these different places that you're upholding these other people to. And even though they don't have this law, they uphold it anyways. And it'll perish with them. The sin perishes because they are apart from it. Okay, going on. This will take place on the day when God's will judge men's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares. So right there, it's not about what we do outwardly. I mean, people will, you know, we have these benefits, raise all this money. You know, people know when you're fasting a lot of time. I mean, I watch it all go on and I'm like, okay, that's great. You know, that's all. I mean, people who do like the more stuff outwardly, the more I wonder about those people, because of what I've seen. Real people I can get close to people when I want to. And I'm being genuine in doing it. It's not like this mole. I see myself as that sometimes now. When I go into environments where the whole time I'm shaking my head, but not on the outside, but yet I can find something to enjoy about these people. I can find something to learn from them. I can enjoy the experience, even though if I wasn't there for a reason that was greater than my annoyance of how they are. They're another one of God's children, and they've become who they are, and that's fine. My goal is to just, share with them how I am as well, and my side of things, how I see it, and to be given the same respect that I give them. And when I find out that they're doing things in secret that I watch them do, differently otherwise, it gives me, all these questions that I'm asking you right now. Since the people I want to talk to, anyway. Now if you call yourself a Jew, if you rely on the law and brag about your relationship to God, if you know his will and approve of what is superior because you are instructed by the law, if you are convinced that you are a guide for the blind, a light for those who are in the dark, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of infants, because you have in the law the embodiment of knowledge and truth, you then who teach others, do you not teach yourself? You who preach against stealing, do you steal? You who say that people should not commit adultery, do you commit adultery? You who have idols, do you rob temples? Do you brag about the law? Do you dishonor God by preaching the law or by breaking the law? As it is written, God's name is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. So, ironically, much like it is today, the people who aren't Christians pretty much don't like Christians at all. That's what I've found. And I can't say that I blame them, because they, unlike me, I don't hate the Christians. I don't. I see who they are and what their purpose is, and I do believe, I'm not going to judge their life, even to go so far as to say what I believe is going to happen to them later. I don't know anything. I just know that I can accept their way of worshiping and, loving God and knowing God, and their interpretation of their letter, their love letter. They call this a love letter. So I want to be able to have the same freedom to interpret mine the way I see fit, and to be able to share my testimony, which is what I'm doing. So he's just saying that these Gentiles back then and, now today, I think of myself as a modern Gentile. We, see the hypocrisy. So now we hate God because we won't even give God a shot, or Jesus a shot, because of what we observe his so-called followers doing, right? Here, circumcision has value if you observe the law, but if you break the law, you've become as though you had not been circumcised. So he's saying that's a lot of pressure. Like what I was saying in Galatians yesterday, if you go by the law, then you go by the whole law. And if you go by faith, then you're basically free. And that's why he's saying it doesn't mean there's a permission slip to go sinning. Like, God wants you to be your best version of yourself, but God says later in this same chapter, or the same book, that he works on that in his own time. Don't worry about it. He removes thorns on his own time. And I can see where I've come from and where I've been and who I am now, that maybe I'm not who I want to be. I just posted a meme about that yesterday on my Facebook, about, I'm not who I want to be, maybe not my best self today, but I can see where I've come from, and I know I've come a long way. And so we have to be able to embrace ourselves at the moment, good, bad, and ugly, and know that I may relapse, I may take 2 steps backwards and 1 step forward some days, but ultimately we can overcome, and obstacles are there for us to bust through them. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Bust out of my cage. The one who is not circumcised physically and yet obeys the law will condemn you, who, even though you have the written code in circumcision, are a lawbreaker. A man is not a Jew if he's only one outwardly, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a man is a Jew if he is one inwardly, and circumcision is circumcision of the heart, by the Spirit, not by a written code, such as the man's praise is not from men, but from God. So that's what he's saying. He's saying even though they don't have the law, they uphold a lot of what their law says, because even though a lot of their law is the ideal, we're dealing with the real generations of time removed from sin's origin. I have a song called Original Sin that paints all that picture. Maybe I'll post that one today and do it in a video. But if the written code had worked to do what it was supposed to, because it really was with best intention by the lawmakers, I think, in when it was originally done. Now there are different people upholding a different system that has been born since the time of this book, that kind of hijacked God, and we serve a false ceiling, because I went to Africa and there's no false ceiling there, you know, and I get off track often. Oh, if the written code had done what it was prescribed to do, then we would be healed by it. It would work. But clearly, all the punishable things that people are, you know, spending their entire lives not being corrected. Like, I would go and take all the people in the prisons right now, even the people on death row, into what I want to start. Prisons are another. I don't even want to get into what I want to do with that yet. But people, I know why they break, and I know what conditioned them to do the things that they did, just based off of reading this and what has happened. And I know that's bold to say that, but because I've been so close to people who've been in prison, and I spent time when I was a kid visiting someone very close to me in prison, and because that's why it's so near and dear to my heart, because I saw what it did to his life and how he never got a chance, and he was so young, and the reasons he started doing that was as a result of something that hurt him as a child that he could have never had a choice over because he was a kid, you know. And then you know, now God has, now where God has him and how he's being used is amazing. But and that's what I'm saying, is God can use anything bad for good for those who love him. And that's why it's not a mistake that people in prison always find the God. It's not. Some of them are inauthentic and just trying to use it as other people use it, the idol of it. But other people are, you know, genuine because they realize how broken they are, how the mercy and the grace, and that's why you watch people weep and break, because that you know that it's not on you anymore. All this pressure had been put on you, and you became so angry because something happened to you that was unrighteous, and then so you've been fighting ever since, and trapped because of knee-jerk reactions and things that people pop and break. We aren't machines. We break, and machines break, and we aren't those, and we obviously break too. And you know, it breaks my heart. That's why I see what he's talking about, you know, that we can't get caught up in that, because we will never really feel the good news and be free of it. Because how could we in this world? We're always inundated by all of our sin and reminded of it in every magazine and every media and everywhere you go. It's like what you aren't doing. How often are you praised at work and pulled aside and told how great you are and given a raise? If they beat you down, they hold you down. If they convince you you aren't good enough or that you can't do it, then they hold you hostage for them. Do you understand how much of a bully that is? How sick that is? That is a dirty ass trick. And there's no prison sentence for these types of people. You can't touch them. They're backed by law, lawyers, all kinds of shit. Peon like me has no voice. In a system that's set up like that, you tell me what I'm supposed to do at this point, other than what I'm doing. I've tried every other way. I have tried nice stuff, nice way, polite, and this is a free country. It's supposed to be a free world. Sorry to get on deep on you there, but I mean, I started thinking about that person and his whole life and how many years he was robbed of. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, because it's not blame. It's not about blame or being ashamed at all. That's moot. It's arguable to a point of who cares? Like, okay, you're 67% right. Where are we at? Are we moving forward here? Are we going to spend another however long going back and forth? Because a house divided will always fall. Congress, I mean, you got two split. Anybody's split all the time, fighting. We won't do this if you do that. I mean, how in the world is that we put trust in that? A divided system like that. And Christianity's just as divided. We've chopped up the body by putting different buildings on the block who all disagree and say different things. Everybody awake? You need a break? Because I don't. Okie dokie. What did chapter 3? I'm starting in Romans. Oh, where am I at? An hour and 11 minutes. Bugger. I'm concerned if the video is gonna upload though. If I can go that, if they allow videos that long. I don't know. I've never tried it. I'll just splice it if not. I guess I know enough to cut the thing. Or I can have capability to cut the thing. I don't really know. I'm not savvy, but my application died. Sorry, I'm replying to something that needs my attention quick. Oh boy. Oh no, okay. Where was I? I'm sorry. Oh boy, that happens all the time. I'm trying to stay focused. Okay. Chapter 3, I'm just going to go on and worry about it later. What advantage then is there in being a Jew, or what value is there in circumcision? Much in every way. First of all, they have been entrusted with the very words of God. Pause. There are stories that are supposed to be out there. We don't know what's in the Vatican, all in the Vatican. We don't know a lot of what's on lockdown. We do know a king put together this book and put these letters in it. We do know there are considerable gaps. We don't know if that's just there was no one writing during that time. No one was leaving behind their testimony. I mean, these people were the only people who could write, I guess, intelligent enough and had experience with Jesus, I guess. I don't know. But this king person put this together, and we don't know what's in some of these buildings that are on lockdown for reasons unbeknownst to me. Sorry, I can't. I get so angry, and I just feel stifled by everything. Oh God, help me get through this. Give me the peace that transcends all understanding and a calm to set me straight. And I'm sorry for my anger. Moving on. What advantage then is there in being a Jew? Or what the value is there in circumcision? Much in every way. First of all, they have been entrusted with the very words of God. So we know the Jewish people had possession of these original letters. And so that's what Paul was saying. What if some did not have faith? Will their lack of faith nullify God's faithfulness? Not at all. Let God be true, and every man a liar. As it is written, but if our unrighteousness brings out God's righteousness more clearly, what shall we say? That God is unjust in bringing his wrath on us? Certainly not. If that were so, how would God judge the world? Someone might argue, which judgment? Anyway, if my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increases his glory, why am I still condemned as its sinner? Why not say, as we are being slanderously reported as saying, and as some claim that we say, let us do evil that good may result. Their condemnation is deserved. I got to read that again. I just got to chew on that for a second. But if our unrighteousness, he's talking about ours, the Gentiles, but if our unrighteousness brings out God's righteousness more clearly, meaning if you can see God and our salvation and how everything works out for us and how we're still protected, even though this law and this everything is built to built us up for failure, then how is that missed? How do you miss that? He's saying if you can see God, because here's an example. When something's justifiable and explainable, when a scholar who went to Harvard and took all these extracurricular courses and did all the best internships, had all the best schools, ends up building something incredible in the world that we all esteem as like this brilliant guy, it's justifiable, right? Because he went out to all these classes and did all these things and was able to do so, whereas other people aren't afforded those same abilities. So when it's unexplainable, when you do something that can't be explained, it's like that doesn't even make any sense. So when you see an artist that's like untrained or come out and I mean, I don't know what an example would be. It's just like there are plenty of smart people who taught themselves, self-taught people who build businesses who never went to college. And so that's a great example. It's like something that isn't justified by something that makes any sense. And that's how God gets the glory. That's why you look at all the chosen ones in the Bible, and they were like heathens. They were like these wretched people who he chose, and he wanted his glory to be recognized because he chose them so it wouldn't be explainable. That's my theory anyway. I'm getting uncomfortable. I'm trying not to let distractions, my uncomfortableness, my losing my voice to make me give up on doing this. It's just everything makes you want to pull away from something you want to do sometimes. What shall we conclude then? Are we any better? Not at all. We have already, like he's saying us, are we any better because God has still saved us? Like they had this law and they were already saved by the blood of being the bloodline or whatever. God said, I give grace on these people through Abraham and the promise that they're saved. And, it's almost as if they hate that or they're mad at that they didn't ever want us to all be saved and all be God's children. Only them. Like this, it's like the kid that wants to be the favorite kid and the special child, or the kid that's the firstborn that when the secondborn is not happy about that, it's kind of like that. Cain and Abel, like Cain killed Abel because he was able. I think it's ironic their very names or their labels. Like Cain needed to rely on his brother. It's not known why his sacrifice and his offerings were unacceptable to God. We don't know that. It never gives us the answer, but you can present theories. And mine is that, God wanted Cain to recognize that you're to lean. Like some are made, I have in one of my songs, some are made to succeed and others to lean. And he couldn't humble himself to lean on his brother, who obviously was good to him and wanted to be good to him. Instead, he was jealous of his ability and his, favor in God's eyes that he killed him. So that inherent darkness doesn't go away from mankind. We can see that in the world. And those type of people don't just say, yeah, you busted me, you're right. I'm the evil person. I'm the devil in disguise. They never tell you. They will fight until death and never owning it. Because they don't think there's a God. They think only the facts and what's on paper and what people know is all that there is. And I don't hate those people. I want to save them. I want to save them from themselves, because ultimately they're going to pay the price. There is an ultimate judge. And that's why God says, I judge at the end. You know, you take a test and then you get the result at the end. So that bell and alarm system that goes off to me when I do something wrong, like that eventually goes away to a person. They don't get that warning anymore because they press snooze. They just keep hitting it, or they turn that alarm system off, which is their conscious telling them better. So, you know, point is, people don't need a written code to tell them what's wrong. And he was trying to say, we uphold the law even though we don't have it, even though we know we have this promise anyways. If my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increases his glory, why am I still condemned as a sinner? Why not say, as we are being slanderously reported as saying, and as some claim that they say? Okay, so someone who owns the media and wants to capitalize, obviously, what's popular in media right now? Sex, fighting, drama. And if it's not there, they're going to create it, because no news ever turns on. It's like, well, there's no news today. You know, and my best friend once said that to me. Isn't that funny how you never say, you know what, there was just no news today? And you wonder if, you know, I know obviously that it's a big world, lots go on. There's something going on all the time, obviously. But, you know, people will make something out of nothing if they know it's going to make the news. Sometimes that and its celebrity in itself makes someone do something. And it's funny because that's part of why I don't want to do music and don't want to put myself out there, because I don't want people interrupting me. I want to be, I know that's selfish, and God's like, it's not about you though, you know, but you know, that's why I've been selfish with my time, because at some point, whether I have a family or whether it's my career, whatever it is, I'll be consumed by it. It'll never ever be about me again. So I worked on my inner and getting myself right inside so that I could be a good candidate for someone I would want to spend the rest of my life with. Well, my path changed since I had it more along the family idea, and now I have it more along consuming myself with these things I'm trying to do right now. But it's all in your choice. He said, and one party says, if God comes to you when you're unmarried, stay that way. If you're married, stay that way. You know, I'm not, you aren't held to anything. That's what I'm saying. But, you know, he's just, all this is warning, telling you what it's going to be like if you choose these paths. He can save you and love you. You can always get into heaven, but it doesn't mean you won't go through the consequences of those decisions here and now. But I'm just trying to say some of these consequences are unrealistic and unreasonable when people are so, demonstrating such, I called it, it's not a democracy where we vote and the majority rules and the majority is represented, because the majority, hold on a minute. Oh, I thought I saw in my Time magazine it said majority rules was scratched out on it, but I don't. I thought I put it somewhere. I must have, maybe it's in the bathroom. But like, if the majority isn't even represented, we don't even know what the majority looks like anymore, because I can tell by looking at certain census numbers and certain things that it's just like you can ignore a whole bunch of people and it's being done. But so if it's not a democracy, it's a demonstration of crazy hypocrisy. I put it in one of my songs, demo crazy hypocrisy. And so that's what he's calling out right here. He's daring to do this. First in a letter, and then he says, I'm coming to you. What shall we conclude then? Are we any better? No, not at all. We have already made the charge that Jews and Gentiles alike are all under sin. Because he says there's no favoritism in God's eyes. It doesn't matter. As it is written, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have turned together, become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. Their poison of vipers is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and misery mark their ways, in the way of the peace they do not know. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that whatever the law says, it says to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be silenced and the whole world held accountable to God. Therefore, no one will be declared righteous in his sight by observing the law. Rather, through the law, we become conscious of sin. I'm going to take myself a break. I need to get a run in for the day, and I'm losing my voice, and I felt like a stopping point. I go with my feelings. I just like to freestyle. When I dance, I like to freestyle. My writing's more thought out, but though my flow, my freestyle is getting a little better, though it's not. I don't have years under my belt of being a rapper. I was more like a poet, and I even started doing that pretty late in life. I didn't think of that as a way to express myself, but then when you find there aren't enough places to be able to express yourself. There's nothing else to do but write. So if you're pent up, just write. Even if you think it's stupid, eventually it could turn it turns into stuff. You just got to trust yourself and brainstorming, keep your mind open and explore those crazy thoughts, and keep later with fresh eyes after you sleep. Look at it again, go over it with separate open-minded people, not with the people you originally brainstormed, and pick out what makes sense and could work, and then brainstorm on those things, and it keeps growing. That's how you plant a seed and keep growing. That's how all my ideas came about. So, class, I'm just kidding. But even though I am trying to teach, I'm trying to teach you what another perspective, another way you could look at it, and nothing more, nothing less.